Even when the chips are down, you are there.
Welcome back to the Lehigh Valley with Love podcast. Today, we're joined all the way from California, Gráinne Hunt and Jules Stewart, ahead of their April 17th show at Godfrey Daniels here in Bethlehem. Gráinne is one of Ireland's most compelling vocalists and songwriters, known for deeply personal songs and a commanding vocal presence. Performing as a duo with San Diego-based drummer and vocalist Jules Stewart, Hunt expands her work into a dynamic, bi-continental queer folk collaboration marked by close harmonies, emotional clarity, and strong musical chemistry. Real quick, thanks as always to our sponsors, WDIY 88.1 FM, Wind Creek Event Center, Michael Bernardin of Remax Real Estate, Molly's Irish Grill and Sports Pub, and our friends at Banco Beverage. And thank you, Gráinne and Jules, for sticking with me as I went through that huge, long intro. You guys are very patient. I appreciate it. How are you doing?
Great. That sounds great. That was a good intro, wasn't
great.
it?
Right? See, the people listening don't know that took me 10 minutes. So that's I appreciate you guys being so polite. But we were saying you have just flown in from Australia. So kind of bring us up to speed with how the tour is going so far. Have you kicked off yet?
We kind of are calling them two different tours because
Yeah.
Australia
Okay.
was one thing.
Yeah.
So we're maybe it's for our mental health.
Yeah.
We're saying we're done with one tour and we're about to begin another.
Yeah.
Because essentially it's 10 weeks. You know, we did 4 weeks in Australia, and then we have about 6 weeks in the US. Australia was amazing. It was our first Australian tour. And we didn't get to see much because, you know, when you're on tour, it's hard.
Yeah.
Days here and there, and obviously like the wildlife there is amazing, and it's very just present, you know. We just keep laughing. I'm like, in Ireland we have badgers and foxes, and you might see them at nighttime. In Australia they have koalas and kangaroos, and you can drive along the road and see them in the middle of the day, you know.
Yeah.
So
what was one of your more fun experiences in Australia? Did anything surprise you? Like,
oh, we had a lot of good times. A lot of good times.
I would imagine, sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think like gig wise we weren't sure like how it would go because we'd never been to Australia before.
Right.
We played a couple of festivals, and the venues were all packed. There were people who got turned away because they couldn't get into the spaces, and I think that was probably one of the bigger surprises.
Yeah.
Because we hadn't been there before, and the response was really great, which is fantastic.
That's great to hear. And your music has been described as queer, new folk singer-songwriter, and your sound has been compared to the Indigo Girls, Brandi Carlile, Tracy Chapman, Natalie Merchant. But how do you describe your music? What do you think it is?
I suppose like I generally say that it's new folk, like NU folk.
Like new metal, like
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just because I feel like, you know, Ireland has a big tradition of folk music, particular type. You know, there's a lot of Irish folk singers that sang other people's songs up through the ages, like incredible singers, but weren't writing songs. And there's a whole wave of new Irish original songwriters coming through that are writing folk music. And I suppose I'm creating a genre for all of us. That's what I'm calling it anyway, you know. And I think people have an expectation when they hear that you're Irish. And sometimes we find that people kind of read Irish singer-songwriter and then they stop reading and they don't find out any more about me, and they assume that they're going to show up and hear all of the typical Irish songs, and that's not what we do. So
every time someone will walk up before a gig and say, "Are you going to sing Irish songs tonight?" We answer at the same time. She says no, and I say yes, because she is Irish. Everything she writes is an Irish song. It's her song.
Yeah.
But I get what people are asking, and to that, no.
You know, people they hear Irish music and they think of like a jig or something.
Yeah,
like that. But you're adding to it, right? It's much more than that. It's a genre. Yeah. It's beyond that. Have you been to Bethlehem before?
Yes.
So, you have. So are you familiar with like Donegal Square and Red Stag Pub?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So,
okay. All right. Never mind. You tell me. You tell me then.
Well, Neville very kindly put
Oh, okay, sure.
As part of the tour. We had reached out to him just randomly. I was like, "Oh, you're Irish, and I'm going to be there. We'd like to meet you." And he was like, "Well, I have this apartment. You can come and stay if you want." And he drove us around, and we got to hang out with him, which was really cool.
Yeah, he extended a huge amount of hospitality and kindness to us.
Well, it brings me to Jules. Let's learn a little bit more about you. You guys are performing as a duo. So what does Jules bring to the show that wouldn't be there without her? What is
relatively little? I'm
They just come along for the tour. It's a nice trip.
I play kind of a percussion drum set sort of rig. It's a little bit of a hybrid thing. So I bring some rhythm and momentum. I also sing harmonies with Gráinne, and that has meant learning to have an Irish accent on some of those words. It's so tricky,
right? Yeah.
Because I'm from the US, so I don't have the same lovely accent that Gráinne does. I have a very different one. So that's been a fun challenge. But yeah, so we sing harmony through a lot of the show. So that's maybe part of what I bring, and then obviously some rhythm.
Is there anything maybe that is surprising about rhythm when it comes to Irish music to you at all, or maybe to somebody in general?
I think every piece of music, you can talk about genres and you can talk about what's common, and some genres are stricter than others, like blues. If you play a blues gig as a drummer, you're playing the same few types of grooves, for the whole show long. But Gráinne's music, I think I treat every song as its own thing and try and figure out exactly what fits where. Surprising about Irish, there's so much about like the Irish music tradition that I don't know about, or I'm not very good at. So I have a lot to learn there. But for Gráinne's music, I think I treat everything as its own special creation and try and figure out exactly how to complement it. And don't play where I shouldn't play, and do play where I should, and let the music be what it is.
You performed and collaborated with a wide range of artists as well. And I think it's interesting the way that you're talking about it as, her music and a collaboration. So how do you approach doing that? Her songs are very personal to her. Is there a way that you approach rhythm in a way that might be different from her music to something else?
Totally. I think I'm not the only drummer who does this. I've heard a lot of drummers talk about this, but knowing it helps that I do sing with her, but knowing the lyrics and knowing what the songs are trying to communicate, and also being able to sing the song in your head and leave space for the words, as a drummer, and don't play over things that shouldn't be played over. So I think that's maybe a big part of my approach. I am a fan of hers. I love her music and I love her songwriting. So it's really important to me that I don't step on any of it and I don't take anything away from what already is there. So I think maybe that's how I approach it generally.
Yeah.
And I said the other day, if what I'm about to do isn't any better than silence, I should just not do it, So I try and approach it that way, I guess.
Gráinne, your music is deeply personal, and I'm going to ask you the question that you've probably been asked a bunch. For a singer-songwriter who you're coming up with melodies, you're coming up with deeply personal lyrics and fantastic music. What is first? Do you usually sit down and write words? Do you start crafting things? Or maybe give an example of a song and how it came together? Because I know people love to hear that.
I'm always a lyrics first person.
Okay.
And I think I've tried to think why over the years as to why it goes that way for me. And I think that I feel like lyrics for me are the hardest part, and that the music is sort of like a bit of a reward. So when I've worked on the lyrics, then I get to work on the music. And that's kind of, I find sometimes the easier part. But I think lyrically, I generally will try, over the years, I always feel like there's loads of these kind of songwriting workshops you can take part in and things you can learn. And I always feel like I'm always picking up tips and tricks and things from people when they talk about stuff. And, I generally will write outwards from a chorus. So I'll start with a chorus. like, because that's the core of the song, really, you know, it gets to the chorus and you really want it to hit. So I'll write the chorus first, and then I'll go back and I'll start the first verse, and I'll make sure then that the first verse makes sense to write into the chorus. And then I'll go to verse 2, and I'll make sure that, you know, from chorus to verse 2 to chorus, that makes sense. And I want it all to resonate. I want it all to connect back so that when the chorus comes around, it makes sense, you know. But sometimes I'll write the lyrics for the chorus, and then I'll write the music for the chorus, and then I'll come back and I'll write the lyrics for the verse, and then I might write the music for the verse, depending on the mood. But I do like to sort of have an idea of, like, you know, what the song's about, what the story is going to be through the song, and how, the chorus is going to resonate when it happens. And, you know, if there's a bridge, if it's a what if bridge or a maybe if bridge, you know.
I'd say you're very conceptual, you know, like you have I don't know if you outline it on paper, but you have like such a strong concept for the song before you even start writing any of the words. And maybe talk about Magnets.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, so Magnets was a song that I had the idea for 20 odd years ago. This fact that when magnets are turned the wrong way around, they push against each other and they repel. And I loved that idea. And I was like, well, you know, there's a song in that. I don't know what it is yet, but there's a song in it. And it floated around my brain for 20 years before I wrote the song. Now, I wasn't a songwriter when I had the idea, but I knew that it could be a song. And if I was ever going to write a song, I would write a song about magnets. And like, it took a while for the kind of the metaphor of what that could be to come to me. And it was a kind of a COVID thing where I realized that, you know, I love to stand on stage and connect with people that way, but also come down off stage and connect with people at the merch table and chat to people after the show or at the interval or whatever. But I love to go home and close the door and be on my own. And I think you can have those kind of two parts of your personality together. And sometimes they work together and sometimes they don't. And sort of that's where that kind of came from. And
we're so lucky in Bethlehem in the Lehigh Valley area to have a place like Godfrey Daniels where you are encouraged to listen, right? It's can you talk a little bit about, there's people here who don't really know about Godfrey Daniels and what it is. So coming from an artist who is going on tour and this is one of your stops, can you talk about it a little bit? Like, what do you like about playing?
Well, I mean, so we got to Godfrey Daniels for the first time last year. So this is a return visit for us. And it was one of the first dates of the tour that I confirmed, because, I mean, like, listening rooms are so special, and that you don't have them everywhere. It's not something that every town or every state or county or whatever has. And there's just this tradition, you know, where it's almost church-like, you know. When you go into it, there's this kind of reverence and respect that kind of almost is put upon you when you walk through the door, you know. When you go in, like, you know that this is not a spot to bring all your mates and sit down the back and have a chat while someone's it's a very respectful thing. And I think the audience are amazing. You know, what Godfrey Daniel does, they have this like membership thing, you know, so like people can join as a member and they can attend a certain number of shows. So people trust Ramona to like pick amazing artists, even if they don't know who they are, and they'll show up and go to these shows. And
we had so many people at the show last year come up and say, didn't know who you were, but it's always good here. And that's such a reflection on the place and staff and the people who are working to make that happen, that they've gained the trust of the community. That's so cool.
Yeah, they've nurtured this amazing community, you know, that wants to be part of it, wants to listen to new music, wants to come out and be involved. And like, getting people off their couches and away from whatever series is on Netflix right now is really difficult.
Just like not looking at getting off their couch, like looking at their phone, and like these are spaces too to connect even with you, right? With the artist.
It's it's an intimate show. It's a beautiful show. And I think you know, it is easy to stay at home. It is easy to choose your own entertainment for the evening and set up your streaming and listen to your playlist or whatever it is. It's really easy to curate your experience, and that's predictable and it's really comfortable for people. And it's so important to leave room for like surprise and having a new favorite artist and all that stuff that you can get by going and seeing a live show. And Godfrey Daniels has done such a good job offering a space for people to do that. That's predictably good, that people know that they're going to be surprised in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool.
It is cool.
It's a cool vibe. It's the vibe itself. And speaking of, all right, we're saying you're starting your new leg of this tour. Just kind of talk about it in general. I know that we're excited to come to Bethlehem, but what are you also looking forward to in general about this leg, the second one?
Well, this is going to be my biggest tour to date. This is 26 dates all over the East Coast, Midwest of the US. And we're getting back to some places that we've played before and getting to see some people that we've played before, obviously, like Godfrey Daniels. But we've added in some new places. And I think, I mean, it's funny because we've just come off the back of another tour and it feels like I'm not really emotionally prepared. But yes, I need this week to get back on track.
Right. Sure. That's fair.
But we're like, we have a great time on tour together. We do a lot of driving. We rent a car and we drive the whole tour. And we get to spend time together. Like Jules was living in San Diego, was currently moving to Nashville. I'm based in Ireland. We don't get to spend all of our time together. We're a couple also. I don't know, we haven't really talked about that. But so when we're on tour, we get to, we've been together essentially almost since the end of December, and we'll be together till the middle of May. And, we get to share these amazing experiences on the road. And after a gig, sometimes, when I do solo gigs, I come home and maybe I'm texting her or having a call with her and trying to fill her in on all of the things and tell her about things. Whereas after a show, both of us have had the same experience. And then we can go, oh, wasn't it great when such and such happened? Or, oh, did you speak to that person? They were telling me about blah, blah, blah. And, so there's this kind of amazing thing that we get to do together. And
we also love spotting wildlife. Like we love that. That's a fun part of tour. Without even having to leave the car, a lot of the time we get to see cool stuff. So the overall tour poster for this year's tour is made up of the animals that we saw on last year's tour, the same area. So there are red-winged blackbirds, and there's a bald eagle. There's some cool fish. There's a little snake that we saw on one of our hikes. There's some of our friends' pets that we stayed with. So there's a dog named Bermuda and a bearded dragon named Smog that we met on our tour. There's all sorts of stuff.
Where can people find like more information about you? I know people, probably have a website, but are you on one platform more than others, or?
Like, I would say like Instagram, Facebook, website are probably the way to go. All the dates are on there. Obviously, we're on all the streaming platforms, because you have to be.
What are you gonna do? I will say about Spotify and stuff, I've definitely been able to find artists I don't think I ever would have found before. It's just you got to go to that extra step and then purchase their stuff.
Yes. We talk about that a lot. That Spotify is obviously terrible for paying musicians, but I absolutely have people listening to my music there that have never seen me or maybe connected with me a long time ago. And,
I'll buy the vinyl or whatever merch I can of that artist. And then it's kind of like my ticket to listen to them guilt-free on Spotify.
Yes,
right?
Totally.
Like
or
I spent the money, right.
Yeah.
And then I
find an artist and support them financially on Patreon, because they get a lot of joy out of listening to their music on streaming, and they know streaming today. So that's incredible. People are great for that.
I am so pleased to talk to you guys today. Thank you for putting up with me in the beginning. We're looking forward to seeing you in Bethlehem on April 17th at Godfrey Daniels. You can head to godfreydaniels.org to get more information or check our show notes. Gráinne and Jules, thank you so much for giving me some of your time, especially after you just got off your trip from Australia. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to chat with us.